Hey, Carrie. So last time we talked about the drought monitor all across the United States, but I'd really like to see maybe a little more regional. So what do you think we're looking at when we look at say the Pacific Northwest?
Well, Jordan, I tell you what, this year the weather is just really kind of a mixed bag throughout the country. One of my favorite resources is this map that will talk about the soil moisture analytics and gives us a really good idea on not only soil moisture, but if you put that with a rainfall resource, you can kind of tell where we might have some issues. So as you mentioned, the Pacific Northwest all the way down through California has just been hammered with hot, dry conditions. And in the Pacific Northwest, there's a lot of crops that are grown there. Some we would be concerned with for mycotoxins, some not so much. But even the ones that we wouldn't test are going to be hit with their yields. For instance, if there's spring wheat in that region, the hot, dry conditions are going to create a situation where there's less grains per head, so their yields will definitely be down. As you go down through California, there's a lot of nut growing regions, and walnuts and pistachios, things like that, are prone to have aflatoxin contamination. The yields earlier in the year were expected to be phenomenal, and now with the heat and with the drought, those are down considerably. That harvest is just probably about to begin, so it'll be interesting to see in that area what's going to happen.
Okay, so now we have an idea of what we're going to see in the Pacific Northwest. Let's maybe move to the South. It looks like the South, based on this monitor, the South has had a little bit of moisture and a little bit of rainfall.
It has. So in Texas, for instance, Texas is always problematic because it's always hot.
Right.
And so you can see aflatoxin in Texas in corn and in milo, sorghum. There's just always that heat present. The difference is if there's moisture, then we have the possibility of fumonisin. So if you notice on this particular report, the western area of Texas has really seen some hot, dry conditions, whereas on the eastern side of the state, kind of up through where that corn belt would be in Texas, we've seen some moisture. So I think Texas has the possibility of being a mixed bag of problems this year.
And so tell me, just county by county, the ability to see a different amount of toxins at different levels and just different toxins altogether, is that correct?
It is, and these resources that are available from the USDA are phenomenal. As you can see on this chart, as on this one, you can drill down to the county and you can check out the moisture, the rainfall, and on the drought monitor you can do the same thing. So those temperatures and that rainfall, especially during anthesis, is really critical. And I can't overemphasize how important these resources are when you try to predict maybe a problem or what you might see.
Okay, Carrie, so obviously people are interested in what's going on in the South, in the Pacific Northwest, but really the Corn Belt is probably the most interesting. So what do you see in the Corn Belt, and is there a certain spot that you think we can kind of narrow down on?
Well, you know, right now in the Corn Belt, depending on where you are, we're at a spot where anthesis is happening for a lot of the states. And anthesis is that time where you've got the corn plant that is tasseled and it's going to be silking either very close to the same time or just within a few days. That's when those plants are the most susceptible. And this report is our Illinois corn crop progress and condition. This is also provided by the USDA and it's great. So with moisture, there's a couple things we look at. The resources that we looked at for the United States will tell you in a graphic conditions and what to look for, but here you can see that they break this down on subsoil moisture and topsoil moisture. So in Illinois, statewide, not by county, but statewide, it's going to tell us that the topsoil moisture was 60% adequate and 19% surplus. So 80% has adequate or surplus moisture in the topsoil. The subsoil, where the roots are going to draw from as well, we had 70 adequate and 7 surplus. So 77% of the subsoil is going to have enough moisture that those plants can draw from. This, combined with any of the rain that we see coming through there, it looks like Illinois is in a pretty good position. Another thing that's great about these reports is that you can see here the corn silking or the corn development all the way through will be clearly noted. So the week ending July 11th, we have 50% of the corn that is silked through the entire Illinois area. That's in comparison to about a 45% average for the last 5 years. So don't forget, weather conditions during that time are really critical. It's always important if you can kind of predict what possibly could happen before it shows up at your door. And that's what these reports are great at.
Wow, Carrie, so that's really a lot of information. I appreciate you going through all of these different topsoil and subsoil moistures and really paying attention to what that might do to each crop.
It also, as you look at this, don't forget, these are just hints of what could happen. Testing is the only way that you can really determine what kind of toxins you're going to find. So this time, while the corn's growing, you need to kind of look and see what kind of problems you could have. But internally, planning is the best thing. Plan your quality systems, see if you can get any pre-harvest samples. We're always looking for pre-harvest samples. And make sure your quality system is as tight as you can get it.
So as COVID has caused a lot of challenges over the last year and a half, what is some on-site testing that people should be prepared for?
So in our laboratory, one of the things that we have really been diligent about is looking at all of our supplies. Not only has the supply chain been disrupted, but sometimes transportation has really taken a lot longer than we've anticipated. So making sure that you have the testing materials that you need, if you need any special solvents or special reading devices, you need to make sure you have all of those in well ahead of your harvest time needs.
We really appreciate all of those comments. And if anybody has comments out there on their neck of the woods and what they might be seeing moisture-wise there, we appreciate anything that we can get.
Absolutely. Feedback is always wonderful.
Well, thanks. Until next time.
Okay.